The Horn of Africa is where many tribes, civilizations, and empires call home. Islam has played a pivotal role in the history of the Horn, most notably the Adal Sultanate and the successor Aussa. Despite its influence in the region, the Islamic kingdoms never managed to permeate into the mountainous Christian Highlands. It was instead the Islamic kingdoms themselves who were conquered by the Ethiopians under Menelik II by the late 1800s. It was also around this time that Ethiopia was the first African nation to successfully repel European colonization. But that was then, and this is now. Italy has been everything but idle throughout these years. With the rise of Mussolini to power, Italy had transformed into a militaristic society aiming to emulate that of the Romans. And in 1935, Italy declared war on Ethiopia, seeking revenge and prestige for the new fascist government. Which begs the question, where does the Sultanate of Aussa fall into this war between empires? Obviously, nothing at the moment. We are after all not significant enough to make a difference in this war. But that may change depending on how strong the Italians are this time. So for now we have to build up our industry, which is important if we are to fortify our position. I also began training whatever divisions I could with the little manpower Aussa had to offer. So for now we shall buy our time. Well, that's all we can really do at this point. As Italy started making gains in the Tigray region, I realized that Aussa may not have as much time as I previously thought. But I remained optimistic and continued biding my time, letting the Italians and Ethiopians beat each other up and weaken themselves while I continued developing my industry, thinking that maybe if I were to keep still enough, then the Italians might just leave me alone. You gotta be fucking kidding. Actually, that is what we have been waiting for all along. While the Ethiopians may have violated our sovereignty for decades, we knew selling ourselves out to the Italians wouldn't be any better of a deal for us. So, we pulled back into the safety of our capital and hunkered down. The frequent attacks on the capital seriously slowed down the creation of our forts, so we hired a fortification engineer advisor and continued building our industry. We stood our ground and kept fighting back and fortifying ourselves, protecting Aussa and trying to work alongside Emperor Haile Selassie and the Ethiopians. Hope seemed to be fading as Italy progressively gained more and more ground as time passed. We began doing the military focuses that worked to increase our manpower and ground forces working around the clock to protect the homeland. Our priority was to hold out as much as possible, which began to seem progressively difficult as Italy managed to penetrate into the highlands. Unfortunately, Addis Ababa did indeed fall to the Italians, and with it, every will of resistance among the main Ethiopian armed forces. But Aussa and her people are built different. By the will of Allah, we continued to fight against the Italian colonization of our homeland, and moved fast to secure the fortified city of Diadawa. With our position strengthened, we must now rally the Ethiopian Muslims to fight under the banner of Aussa. Twice during our long protracted war with the Italians, we tried to counterattack and liberate our brethren, and twice we were unfortunately beaten back into our strongholds. The Italians were simply too powerful for us to try and combat head-on without the assistance of an outside power. The League of Nations was unfortunately too inept for us to rely on because number one, we aren't recognized as an independent country, and two, we don't even know there is a League of Nations in this game because the only time we ever hear about it is when enough countries around the world decide they want to start killing each other, and they have to disband it because it failed at its one job. So, we continued to resist alone, and began creating a modernized army, complete with motorized divisions and tanks to better fight the Italians. The situation became more complicated as Italy joined the Axis powers and called the German Reich into their war against a sub-Saharan kingdom in East Africa going guerrilla against them. Apparently they aren't overkill enough for the Afar people of Aussa, which sounds like a good David vs Goliath story, but in the context of now, the arrival of German panzers could seriously do a number on our fighting capabilities. As large droves of Italian and German troops began assaulting our positions, we had no choice but to abandon Diadawa and concentrate all our forces for a last stand in our capital. This could signal the end of our valiant struggle against colonialism and the fight for Islam in the Horn of Africa. Just like the rest of Africa and our brethren in Ogaden, Danakil and the Highlands, we might end up under the European jackboot, our lands occupied and our children enslaved. But for now, Aussa will go down fighting and take a few fascists down with us. Better to die on our feet than to live on our knees. However, our sacrifices have paid off in the end, for Allah has willed that Aussa lives another day. We received news that the German Reich has invaded Poland, and since Italy is allied with Germany, and Poland with Britain and France, Italy ended up at war with them too. And for the first time, they finally directed their eyes to our noble struggle in the mountains of Aussa. We quickly sent them an appeal to help us take out the Italians, and finally got the big guns rolling. Together with Britain and France and what is left of the Ethiopian resistance, we coordinated a strike against the Italian East Africa and fought with all we had. We first liberated Eritrea and Italian Somalia to bottle up the bulk of the Italian forces and starve them in the Ethiopian Highlands. But while I fought tooth and nail to free every inch of territory from Italy, I realized the Allies were giving the land freed by us to Haile Selassie, the coward who boarded the train out of Ethiopia into the comfort of the United Kingdom, while I sat in Aussa and Diadawa getting pounded by the Italians, continuing the national struggle. This is an outrage in its finest. However, we can't really do anything about it. Ethiopia is protected by the United Kingdom, and we are but a small kingdom engulfed by a regional empire. News came that France had surrendered to the Germans, and a collaborationist regime had been set up in the south and the colonies. But the fight still goes on, and we continue to kill off the remaining Italians besieged in Addis Ababa. After the liberation of Addis Ababa, we decided to go on a little anti-colonial adventure in Vichy-controlled Djibouti to test the preparedness of our armies and to free our people from French colonization. With confirmation that the British won't be intervening due to the Reich being a more pressing issue, we revolted against Ethiopia. The legitimacy of the cowardly Haile Selassie has to be challenged. An emperor who abandons his people is no true emperor. The people have willed that the crown rightfully belongs to Mohamed Yayyo of Aussa, and if by right of heroism in the face of adversary isn't grounds for coronation, then we shall have the crown by right of conquest. However, being the cowardly dishonorable bastard he is, Haile Selassie decided to surrender to the Axis powers instead, and allow his country to be partitioned by the Germans, Italians, and the Bulgarians. But that didn't matter, since the newly acquired territories were far-flung and cut off from their capitals. They were nothing but easy pickings for Aussa, so we moved in to secure the territories as quickly as possible. With Haile Selassie, the Axis powers and their warlord puppets out of the picture, Aussa grew larger. The Horn of Africa is now under the rightful rule of Aussa. Mohamed Yayyo was crowned Nagusa Nagast, Emperor of the Horn, and while the capital city of our attempted colonizers fell to the Allies, we made the unification of the Horn of Africa official, and with it came the uniting of the Horn Muslims under one banner. Well, you know what? I think I prefer my old Sultanate better. As a gesture of appreciation to the Allies for realizing the mistake of giving Ethiopia to Haile Selassie and letting me overthrow him, I sent several Austrian expeditionary forces into Italy and Yugoslavia to help the Allied forces achieve the final victory over the Axis powers, even helping them capture Berlin. And once Berlin fell, we were on the way to neutralize Slovakia and Hungary, the last remainders of the Axis powers. And finally, the war in Europe was over. In the peace conference, I was granted all of the Horn of Africa, along with Cameroon and Gabon as UN mandates for my contribution to the war effort in Europe. And this is it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more. This is my first video and this is something I've been trying to do for a while, so feedback and critique is greatly appreciated. This is Deviation, signing out.